they beat V5, they beat TT. Rare Adam's a bit of a tough one. That still puts them in good stead. If they lose this one, things are going to come down to the wire.
They really, really are. Suning now going to be on the blue side this time with V5 on the red. They are now banning away the Ziggs themselves. The Akali, the LeBlanc, and the Xin Zhao all taken away. Suning clearly don't want to play it and clearly don't want to play against it.
Yeah, I mean, even with the nerves coming through to the champions, still not wanting to deal with that one. Still not given any sort of opportunity. You see the Ziggs banned away once again. Suning opting to ban the Xin Zhao. Obviously had problems with V5 prioritizing that early, and the Karma syncing so well with it. I think ultimately playing the Karma solo lane works best when you're with the Xin Zhao. Olaf is something we used to see with it, but not so much not as much recently. Now Suning just gonna lock in that Lee Sin. It's been good for SOFM, but also has that flexibility. They haven't really looked to use it yet, and I think lane Lee Sin is a fair bit weaker than it was. But either way, we'll be confident to take that one. See what V5 want to lock in here. Toying with the idea that as well. Obviously, Kepler had a great game on this, but I'm not sure you need to prioritize it so early. They do end up locking it in.
Yeah,
does mean that Suning could potentially look to punish this. I could see them going for a very aggressive lane. Something like a Kalista would do a lot of work to try and shut this down. And we saw that from Huang Feng in that game one. And I think it could make a lot of sense here too.
It really, really could. And V5 obviously saying, look, Kepler, you did over 40% of the team's damage last time round. You got yourself some pretty decent numbers. We're going to put you back on it, keep you on the roll, keep you on the ascendancy with that particular pick. You're clearly comfortable with it, and now they are going to lock themselves in the Renekton. Renekton's still a good flex between Eliza and Uniboy. Going to be between top and mid, and now Suning got to find out what they want to go for here, and it looks like they are going to try and maybe lock in their bot lane duo just to be safe that they don't give this Ezreal an easy matchup.
Yeah, I would really rate the cluster in this situation. You can take your support on the same rotation if there's something you really want to prioritize. I wouldn't, though, personally. I think you don't know the support matchup from V5, so I'd leave it till you can potentially threaten a counter pick, or at least make it so that V5 have to use their own counter pick, right? If you make it so they have to pick at their final pick, then at least you'll know where the Renekton is going first. They actually do end up locking in the Rakan. I am not the biggest fan of this, honestly. I feel like there's no reason to take your support here. Rakan isn't even like that high of a priority to ban away. There's still things like Tom Kench, there's still things like Taric, Thresh. A lot of options still available. There's no support bans first rotation, so you know, either way, shouldn't lock it in. They feel confident. They have those engage tools. V5 is going to answer with that Nautilus, who can do a pretty good job into the Kalista overall. Obviously, that point and click ultimate, easy to lock it down.
Very, very easy to lock her down, and it's going to be on to keep Huan Feng safe in this laning phase. That's been pretty good laning phases from Suning in the very early stages, first couple of levels, and now we'll see what V5 want to prioritize now. They've got themselves a Renekton, so they can ban away anything they feel like would either be bad against it or even just things that can do well into a team environment. So they get away the Twisted Fate. I wouldn't be surprised to see them ban away the Sylas as we wait to see what Suning want to prioritize themselves.
And, you know, I think maybe that Renekton, because I was thinking potentially an Aurelia could have been good for Suning. I think maybe that Renekton's kind of scared them off a little bit. I still feel like with how strong she is on the current patch, you could still potentially pick this up. We could see that come through for one of these teams that's confident to wield it. But either way, we see the Camille taken away from Bin. No real surprises there. And the TF taken away from Angel. Suning, they could target another jungler in this situation. Kind of comes down to what they're concerned about. It. They could look for something with a bit more early pressure. They could look for something like a Diana. But instead of going for that Rise, which we've seen pretty frequently from both, well, we've seen both sides have it once in this series.
Yeah, we have seen, of course, Uniboy and Angel pilot the Rise, and now no one will get it. So it has a 100% pick ban rate in this particular series, and now V5, they can look to just pick up the Sylas themselves, and with something like the quickness available to you, that becomes a very, very potent and powerful thing to have in that mid lane. And honestly, it is most likely going mid, but we have seen it flex towards top a couple of times, and Suning, they're locking in the Zoe. They're saying, yep, don't care, we need something that has wave clear, and they're going to try and poke people out.
Yeah, and that early pressure as well is a big factor when you're going into the Sylas. They then take that Jace in the top lane, so making them sure they have good sort of solo lane matchups. PZX going to come out with a Zac, though, in this situation. Honestly, I like this in this situation. It's really good into the Zoe because you just can't find space from it. Sleepy Trouble Bubble doesn't do anything when you're flying through the air. And ultimately, the only person on the side of Suning who can do a good job of interrupting the Zac leap is kind of SOFM with the Dragon's Rage. And even then, committing your ult just to stop him from jumping in, not obviously the most ideal thing. So V5, it's a little bit interesting, but I kind of rate what they've been able to come up with, but my concern is still going to be the lane pressure mid, the early pressure of SOFM, bot lane with the Kalista. But if V5 can navigate that early game, if they can lean into the mid game and onwards, they look like they could be in a good spot.
They definitely do. We see both sides going with very definitive team comps. I look at the side of Suning. I see Jace. I see Zoe. I'm seeing poke pick composition that's looking to find someone isolated, get some odd number skirmishes in their favor, and find that advantage from there. Whereas V5, they're looking to be in your face as a 5-man unit at all times with, Ezreal just pushing in the backside, just pumping out those mystic shots. So if V5 can get on top of Suning in these mid-game team fights, they should be able to come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think so. And again, a big thing to talk about is we had the Karma, which allowed them just to run the enemy team down. Zac is going to be something that, as much as you can't just run at them, you can't just leap at them. It's a little bit different, but accomplishes the same thing. If they want to find setups and just force fights, having big engaged tools, having the Rakan, having the Zac are definitely what you need in those situations. It gives them the agency to start fights on their terms. My concern, though, is obviously, I talked about the early game, it's also the poke coming out from Suning. If they find the engage, they can shut that down, but if they don't, they are just going to get harassed by the Zoe and that Jace.
We'll have to wait and see. We jump onto the Rift for the third and final time in this best of 3 series. Suning looking to keep their ship right, whereas V5 trying and praying they get that all-elusive first series win of the split. It is 1-1. Whoever wins this gets all the glory. Now for V5, they're just going to back themselves away and make sure that Suning don't really get any purchase with this early invade.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good move. There's obviously a lot of strength in the level 1 coming out from the likes of the Rakan and the Kalista. I think also you want to be cautious about vision in the early game, because I think Zac is a jungler you can punish. You kind of need level 5 on Zac before you can really offer up too much. You kind of just want to clear up until that point. Simply because of the fact, I think Uniboy gets out here, but he is actually going to have to flash, scared of the Kalista Ren stacking up. But yeah, the thing with Zac is once you hit level 5, you get a lot more range on Elastic Slingshot, and that's when you can really be enabled in your gank. So he kind of just wants to clear for the early stages before he gets to that point for the time being. So them invading on this bot side and threatening, really good to see. And also for Suning, it establishes a potential map split. And when there's an Ezreal in the bot lane, you set up potential dives onto that pick.
It is very much something you can do. It is difficult with a Nautilus there. Has the most CC in his kit in the game, as we are seeing the Raptors being taken. And then, of course, straight away, PZX making the correct move here to try and get himself up towards this top side. He knows he's going to lose at least 2 camps from this, so he just wants to gain back at least 1.
Yeah, and the only concerning thing here is that Bin is pushing in, as you'd expect in this matchup, but you no longer have any sort of safety on your side of the map, so has to be a little bit concerned. That being said, Zac isn't the best at early pressure. If Bin can crash this wave in, he should be in a good spot. Can even go for a cheetah recall and reset off the back of that. So ideally wants to get this shoved in as soon as possible and sort of make sure he's in a dangerous spot.
Yeah, I love this though from PZX. Just immediately taking the blue, going to put himself now into his own red buff, so is not going to be spotted out by the ward that was popped down by Angel Zoe, and is still an unknown quantity. They don't know exactly where he is. Did he start on the red buff? Is the blue buff for Lee Sin still available? There's a lot of different question marks coming in. I will say though, SOFM did clear out the entirety of that bot side, so he got 2 extra camps off of that clear.
This is the problem, is that this is the smart play when you're scared SFM's going to beeline straight towards that blue side jungle and try and defend it. But because SFM took his time, he cleared out their entire of V5's blue side jungle. He then passed through, picked up the Raptors. We are now at a point where Zac has nothing on the map he can take apart from the Scuttle Crabs. And if you get contested on the Scuttle Crabs, you're in a bad spot. You're now on the same side of the map as SOFM. He has Prior with the Jace. He's feeling confident to move up to it. Uniboy does have Prior for now, but remember, he's flashless, which is a massive danger in this situation. So SOFM, he's going to take this one. And you really need to get that bot side scuttle here, or PZX is really in a hole, and already it's being collapsed on by Suning. So they are completely denying the Zac in this situation, and he basically has nothing to do right now until his camp spawn.
Yeah, he is unfortunately going to be walking into a bot side that has absolutely nothing for him there. You can see Reheal looking to see if he might go for a bit of a gank of his own, as On takes a bit of a couple of mystic shots and auto attacks to the face, as PZX now going to realize there is a red buff available to him if he wanted to try and steal that one away. But you can see now SOFM just feeling fairly confident to kind of, oh no, he's going to know exactly where the Zac is and he's going to find him. This might be a little bit of a scuffle, but you would always benefit onto the Lee Sin in this. Triple bubble does not land, but in the bot side, we do see another engage in. It's going to be the commitment of the ignite and the heal, but On has a lot more, or a lot less health, I should say, as Kepler picks up first blood. Disaster in the bot side.
And On, honestly, just a bit of a misplay. He could have W'd in, could have flashed out. He ends up W'ing out, which is a bit too slow, so Kepler can follow up. And also, because you're not providing that CC on the Ezreal, Huangfeng isn't able to follow up on the kill. So a bit of an error there for the bot lane, losing that. And you look at the CS difference between the AD carries, it's definitely a blunder you don't want to make. It's kind of what we saw in game 2, right? Bit more extreme, but it's a scenario where Kepler was down in farm because of the matchup, but kept getting kills and that put him ahead. And now we see Zac just being in position, which is going to help reheal, freeze this wave to an extent. And we get the replay. So this is why Nautilus is also good into the Rakan. You can lock down that mobile carry. So he locks him up for a fair bit here. And here, On goes forward. He could have W'd on a Kepler, doesn't. Instead, W's out. But again, he still had flash available. It feels like he just, was kind of indecisive with what he wanted to do, and as a result gets taken out very quickly and then not able to trade back. But we did see, obviously, SOFM invade on those Raptors. He's now getting his own, and at this point has a substantial lead in the jungle.
Yeah, this is what is expected. The Zac not really in a position to fight the Lee Sin pretty much ever. Has gone back to pick up his Ionian Boots of Lucidity, so is still looking to be that big utility tank that is just a CC bot. And curious to note as well, you'll notice that Huangfeng has not yet attached himself to anyone in the game, still sitting on that item in his inventory, so waiting towards the mid game where he might feel like there is someone who needs to be going in, possibly even SOFM.
I think a big factor with this is a lot of clusters started doing it, because one of the problems with linking at the start of the game is you can't do anything in the invade, right? Because it takes so much time. Oh, just wait a second, we'll see. Doesn't look like the guys to come through. But yeah, so something I've seen is that what they'll do is they won't link level 1 because you don't need it, right? You don't have the ultimate. Obviously, it does give that W damage where if you both hit them. But if you look, Huangfeng hasn't even skilled his W. So he's not actually losing anything by not being bound. There's no advantage to be gained from being bound right now. And what they normally do is on the first back together, they bind then. Or when there's a moment where they don't need the tempo or the pressure. And I think you saw from the level 1 invade, if they had bound, On would have been too slow. They wouldn't have been able to go for that. So that's kind of why we see this decision making. Is something that we saw, I believe the last time I saw Cluster in the LPL, I can't remember which game specifically it was, but they did a similar thing. I think though that On dying kind of meant that they weren't able to get it on the first reset. And now they are looking to contest this blue, but PZX, Uniboy's Chunk, you can't do this.
Yeah, you have no priority in mid or bots, so you just have to let that one go and double the CS here for the Lee Sin over the Zac, and you can see that in the gold, about 500 or so as we wait to see now. Ion finally gets himself bound. Like I said, it takes so much time, and now that ultimate is available for Huangfeng. Was, as you said, waiting to see if needed it, now does need it. With the ultimate available, can chuck him in or get him out should he be in any danger.
Yeah, and at this point, there's the relevance of that, and they're going to be able to use that as an extra tool. A lot of CC layering, honestly, and also, I think a big factor is you often see times the Rakan jumps in, gets the CC down, and then just gets popped, right? Just gets absolutely obliterated. Yep. A lot harder for that to happen. You can now pull him out again. He can use that knock up to re-engage once he's got it, or he can just jump out the fight and then wait for cooldowns to sort of find value there. So I think that's kind of where you see this Rakan prioritized so much with the Cluster. I was kind of critical that they were blinding it, but overall it's still gone pretty okay in the spot lane. I've been.
Oh, he's in a lot of trouble, but he'll have to flash away. Dominus was popped. PZX not quite level 6 yet, so doesn't have the Let's Bounce as we see SOFM. While that gank was happening top side, he's on the Dragon. This perma push in bot side just makes it so easy for SOFM to get any and all priority on the bottom half of the map.
Yeah, and it just makes it very difficult for V5 to really contest that one. But you see now, PZX has hit the level 5 point, and that's where he sort of feels confident to look for these ganks. Your Elastic Slingshot gets a lot of range every time you put a point in it. That's why you max it first. And at level 5 is kind of the point where you get a pretty big jump. You can finally sort of look for those angles that Zac likes to find, like over walls and stuff. On the back of that, because prior to that, it's pretty much a scenario where you kind of just, it's too short range to jump over walls, and if you're walking in lane to do a Zac jump, it's kind of not doing what the champ wants to do.
Yeah, you're definitely hurting if that's the case as such. As we can see now, Huanfeng and On just keeping Kepler underneath this tower. Luckily for Kepler, he is not... the Rakan is not quite level 6, so definitely still in a positive position, as PZX thinks he might be in a position to be able to get the regank down. He's going to be able to jump in, but there's SOFM. This is going to be a straight up 2v2, but you do not win this one here. Suning reading the V5 jungler like a book and just completely mitigates anything.
Yeah, good timing from SOFM. It allows Bin to maintain that advantage in the top lane. They're going to start on the Herald, and you can already see the supporter moving up. This is going to be a numbers advantage for the side of Suning, but they're trying to gank Bin to try and turn things in their favor.
They are trying to gank Bin to get him all set up and ready to go. He will get knocked back and will end up dying. And it's PZX who picks up that kill. While that's been happening, the Rift Herald is down to about half HP, and Suning still feeling confident to go for it. They know that they're in a good position to still be able to take that objective. They don't need to panic about it.
Yeah, critical thing was the priority bot lane meant that Huanfeng could move over. You actually saw him pathing up there, and they know if the Calista joins, you're not going to be in a good spot. Now, this lane ward, really good coming out from Suning. Bin just being able to find that, and because it's not actually in the brush, look at PZX. He's got a sweeper. He thinks he's unseen. Bin's very aware. He knows that this is coming, and as a result, SOFM does, and they're able to turn it around. And the thing is, this is something that you'll look at in the VOD review and go, oh, that's why. But at the moment, you don't even know. You think it's just unlucky, right? PZX is like, damn, I kind of just got gamed on that one. But that ward placement really, really smart, because with the control ward and tri-brush, with the sweeper going down in the brushes, he honestly would have just thought that was a clean gang.
Yeah, honestly, everything except for that information going the way of V5. They got in, he was able to find the right line of sight, and just sad for them that they weren't able to make it stick. They did make it stick on the second time around, as he was a little bit greedy from Bin, not having his flash and walking up as aggressively as he did, as we see both supports seeing the red outlines of each other. So waiting to see if any wards are popped down, as Reheal does pop one in the river to make sure that there is no shenanigans as of yet, as we look down towards the CSs of the teams. Actually, V5, who actually, funny enough, have an extra kill in the back pocket, but they are down about 1,000 gold, and that is to do with the CS. 20 CS in bot lane, about 10 CS in top, about 15 or so in mid, so it is still Suning
as well.
Yeah, the jungle matchup is huge right now for the side of Suning, and this is what we expected to see when we saw these matchups, and it's all about V5 if they can survive these matchups.
Yeah, and all in all, you know, there's obviously going to be those test leads, like it's expected. I think they've been mostly okay so far, but there's still a lot more to be said, right? We now have the Herald in the pocket of Suning. There's still pressure being applied bot. V5 need to kind of dissuade this momentum here, and actually they're looking for SOFM.
SOFM in a little bit of trouble, forced to use the Dragon's Rage kick. You can see Uniboy trying to come in. He steals away the only kick of his own, and now V5, they trade 1 for 1. It's top laner for top laner. It's still a very close fight, though, as we can see the Zac jumping in, still has the cell division, gonna go golden to keep himself alive just a little bit longer. You can see Angel now with a stolen Zhonya's, keeps himself there. SOFM feeling confident to go back in with the Gore Drinker, and they will find the 3 kills. SOFM played that beautifully.
Really good lean sin play, and finding so much value in those scrappy fights where you can keep diving in, finding value. And here's the critical thing: Gore Drinker, right? SOFM has Gore Drinker. We have Loons on Angel. We had Eclipse on Bin. They had the advantage in terms of gold, and this is an example from translating that. So they look for this initial kill onto SOFM, but he's able to find some distance. And again, having the Gore Drinker gives him a lot of powerful stats, give him survivability from that healing, and he's just able to keep diving in, finding value repeatedly, finding this damage, and extending the fight where it's favorable towards him. And I honestly think if you had an even gold fight in a situation, we could have seen V5 maybe win it, but that extra little bit of stats making a massive difference here.
Yeah, just being able to delay everything, landing it in. You see SOFM going in to get the little bit of extra life steal onto the Krugs. Just very, very well done. They crack open the mid lane turret with all the plates as well. So that is a 4,000 gold lead out of nowhere for Suning. They also get themselves the dragon, and this was the early game we expected from Suning given their composition.
This is the one we hoped for, right? It was a bit slower in that game 2 when they had sort of a prior bot lane. They didn't really play around it, and it was V5 who struck first, whereas here Suning are really capitalizing on this advantage. The fight break now as well.
Bit of a fight going in here. The Dragon is going to be secured before any of this does end up happening up as Bin TP's in, flashes away, trying to see if he can take down Kepler right now. They have Huanfeng here. He does not have the rend damage just yet, but you can see there SOFM on the backside. Kepler needs to be so careful. They are going to chuck in with the Fate's Call and the Lee Sin on the back end of this fight. This dominance, Renekton will fall, and Suning, what looked a little bit dicey, end up coming out trumps anyway.
Yeah, they push heavily into V5's jungle. Again, it looks like it's going to be a bit messy, but they're able to find it out, and it's just the strength of these skirmishes, things like the Lee Sin, like the Callista, even the Jace as well, able to do so much. And you can see, Alias on the Renekton was a force to be reckoned with, but they were able to put him in a scenario where it was several members fighting against one.
It still doesn't have his Gore Drinker. You can imagine how much impact that item would have had if he was able to pick that one up, and you can see on your screen just so much control for Huanfeng on this bot side. He's just been pushing in relentlessly, denying CS. He's got a 45 CS lead, and it's only getting bigger, Ox.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of expected this of the matchup, the Callista and Ezreal, and that's why I was doubting Kepler picking up the Ezreal so early. I don't think you needed to pick it that soon. I think you should have taken a third pick on the red side, because then it would be less punishable. You pick it then, you ban away the Callista, you ban away maybe things like the Draven as well if you're concerned about them bringing that one out, and you're in a much more comfortable position. Because they committed early, they can be punished in this regard. And again, this was a messy fight, been TP'd into a not so optimal scenario, but the gold advantage is there, the skirmishing power. And you can see, even though Alias, he actually does a lot of work this fight, the rest of his team just aren't able to hold up. Kiting back, not ideal for a Zac. And then there's this moment where, you know, Renekton dashes in, huge amount of damage, instantly targeted and shut down.
Just not really in a position to fight it right now, and the gold lead is just ballooning ever so much further away from V5. Suning now at 5,000 gold. They got themselves 2 dragons as well. They are in the ascendancy. There's a good hook. SOFM should be fine though, as he's got himself the Zoe with the triple bubble to knock out half of Reheal's health, so I do not think that trade was worth as of this moment. But V5 still looking like they want to try and contest. They want to try and catch people while their flashes are down. They want to see if they can get something going for them while they don't have summoners. And you can see now Uniboy between turrets just trying his very best to see if he can get something going. But while this has all been happening, Huanfeng is on his own in the top side. You can see now PZX might be in a little bit of trouble. The trouble bubble does not land onto anybody, but does make it a little bit awkward to walk away from. And V5, they're going to lose 1 turret. They might even lose 2 turrets because they can't get the resets off.
Yeah, I love this from Suning. They play to allow Huanfeng just to have his alone time in the top side, and they stall on the other side of the map. You don't even get that single turret for V5 in the bot lane because they're a little bit cautious about the strength of Suning. They were trying to make that play, they were trying to make things happen, and they just shut down. And now Huanfeng, he will back up before getting that second tower, but he got so much farm, so much alone time. 50 CS lead over Kepler on this Ezreal. It's really substantial at this point.
Yeah, CS leads are starting to get a little bit ridiculous. It's about 30 or so in top side. It's about 40 or 50 nearly in the jungle. 30 or so in mid. 50 in bot lane. It's becoming difficult. And I think that's the only way we can really describe it for V5 is they need to try and find picks. They need to try to find gold to come back into their pockets to get them to that all-elusive late game.
Absolutely, and the problem is, like, those mid-game spikes we want to talk about as well, like the Ezreal, they're just going to be delayed because there are going to be champions who are stronger at that point, who have more items, right? That's the main thing. I'm looking at the Callista. She's going to hit that 2-item spike. She's going to be super hard to deal with. Has a 2-level lead, by the way, over the Ezreal, which is very substantial. It has actually just closed to 1 level, as I said that. But even so, there's an XP lead, there's a gold lead. It's scary stuff for Suning to deal with, and for V5 to deal with. And I feel like Suning, if they keep this momentum up, they're in good stead to just close this series out.
Yeah, it does feel like Suning in total control of this game. They will wait just over 45 seconds till that dragon spawns. Sadly for them, it is a Cloud Drake. It is a Cloud Soul, so not the most impactful, but you'll take it anyway as the objective does come up. Get yourself that Soul. It still helps quite a lot, especially when you're looking at someone like On or even Bin jumping in with the hammer. It does give you that extra bit of extra movement speed to get yourself set up. And we just see now Huanfeng just pushing forward, trying to see if they can catch Kepler out. They did drop the Rift Herald very early on into this lane. There's a hook going out, but it lands onto a minion. Reheal, though, was all a little bit of a bait. Huanfeng flashes away. They will get some good CC down onto him, which forces On into a little bit of a bad position, and he has to use the Fate's Call. Suning, you still got to give respect to V5. They can still take you out.
That's the power of those engaged tools. So when, you know, you're potentially dealing with a difficult situation, Bin pushing in the side lane, you can just force a fight. And Huangfeng, it's scary with the Callisto. If you get dove on in these situations, it can really put you in the hole.
It really, really can. And now Suning going to be able to finally take down that tier 2 in the mid lane. And Suning just pushing in towards this bot side. Very difficult for Uniboy to really do much about this push. He's going to have a lot of Suning's members just in on top of him. Just popped out the Everfrost and lands it onto 3 people as Tower does get a little bit of damage down onto the Suning members. And again, you're totally fine with this if you're Suning. You just got to be a little bit more respectful. Make sure you're not giving any opportunities over to V5 and you'll probably win the game.
Yeah, just continue this momentum. But again, we saw in game 2 that V5 will just try and force favorable fights. The gold discrepancy is definitely going to cause issues with that in this one. And again, if you miss execute on an engage, if you aren't able to get on top of Huangfeng, he will just kite you. He'll just get so much sustained damage off the back of his Ren, just be able to build those stacks up again and again and again and again, and then just pop it. Huge amount of damage comes through. And if he's able to kite, that's the critical thing. He'll find a lot of favor.
He will find a lot of favor. It's missing its flash and heal as he did have to use it to get out of that little skirmish in mid lane. So still about a 6,000 gold lead here for Suning. They got 3 dragons. They got themselves the Earth, Wind, and Fire. And again, it's just a slower mid game that we expected from V5, where they, similar to game 2, are very much throwing out the mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. You know, they don't really have a great game plan on how to deal with their side waves. They are falling much further behind in CS than we probably ever anticipated in pretty much every lane, and they are just really looking to try and find that cash injection to get them to that 2-3 item point.
Yeah, and finding that one team fight to kind of get you back in the game. That is the critical thing. That's the window. And it comes down to looking at Huangfeng, because he doesn't have his flash at the moment. If you shut down the Callisto, if you lock him down, Suning lose a lot of power on the back of that. Realistically, Zoe likes to keep people at a distance. If you have killed the Callisto, if you're running at her, it's not an ideal scenario. But Suning, they're not hesitating. They have that power on the top lane. They have control that top side of the map, but they just very quickly slip in, rotate bot, and pick up that tier 2. And it's like V5 1 resets, not in a position to really respond.
Yeah, they just have to concede it. They don't really have any real objective to trade for it. They don't really have any pressure to, you know, put themselves in a better position. They have finally got 2 items of the Kepler, so he is still stacking up nicely. 1-0-1, having been terribly underperforming in this game as of yet, as we see more and more powerful items being picked up by these very big poke heavy champions. And right now I feel like you get hit by a paddle star or hell, even an accelerated shock blast, you're going to just get most, if not all, of your health bar depleted before you blink your eyes.
Yeah, you're just gonna get absolutely obliterated, honestly. And that's the thing, if you're not finding the engage windows, they close very quickly when the poke starts to come in. To see PZX potentially looking for Angel here, but Angel's just going to play it safe and back it away. Has the vision to sort of spot out this Zac. And again, it's just fishing. It literally is just fishing for V5. It's them trying to find something. They are looking for On here, but don't really have any follow-up. You kind of need Nautilus to shut down the Rakan. And again, they're grouping, they're fishing, they're looking, but every time they have to deal with these side wave threats, they are doing a little bit better at that in this game than they did in that game 2, like just reacting to that and having people cover it. But still, like, Suning will set up a push in one lane and then they'll transfer that pressure over. You can see now they're pushing heavily into this top side, and it's because Bin has pushed bot in. He's now rotating over, he's in position to be there and assist, and he's now actually going to catch that mid wave and push that one up, so they can very heavily lean this wave into the top lane.
Well, they are going to try and push it into top side, but the stolen on ultimate, the Rakan there, put back into the Fate's Call. You can see Huangfeng still very healthy, feeling very, very good about this fight. Now SOFM landing the Sonic Wave, maybe looking to try and go in. The accelerated shock blast does so much. V5 don't lose anybody, but they have so little health bar they cannot defend.
Yeah, they just have to back off completely in this situation. And as a result, they get that tier 2 top lane. They're now taking down all of those outer towers outside of the base. And feeling really confident to start off the Baron. They are so far ahead, they can look this. Oh, and Uniboy's just caught out.
Uniboy went in, but I don't know if that was the play. He has to flash away. They all jump in and flash back after him, but now Allies is just in a wrong position at the wrong time. He has to try and get himself away. He flashes, but double flash from Angel means that the trouble bubble will land. He will fall, and this is all Suning all the time. They can get the Baron, the Soul, anything. The world is their oyster.
Literally, they're in such a position of strength. They start the Baron to bait V5 in. Now they're trying to toy with them and try and lean towards that dragon and see if someone will face check. Reheal. Don't think they're going to follow up on that one, so he should be okay. But either way, this is now Soul for Suning, and when we're talking about those engages, those snap turns off the Baron, there's a lot of strength in having this Cloud Soul, actually. It gives you that extra movement to sort of navigate around fights and avoid these engages from V5.
Not only that, but does give you, of course, the ability haste on your ultimate abilities. So the things like the Lee Sin kick, like the Fate's Call, or even the quickness will be up on a much shorter cooldown than before. This is just Uniboy just getting caught out, realizing that he probably shouldn't have used his abscond abduct to get in on top of 3 members of Suning, and then Allies was just TP'd in, trying to think he could maybe go for something, and also gets caught out and punished.
I think we're kind of seeing from this game that Suning function a lot better with this early agency, right? I think in games where it's a very simple, aggressive, proactive composition where you try and find that early advantage, snowball it, and keep applying the pressure, they look pretty solid. That game 2, where it was more for lean to their scaling and play front to back, it looked rough and it looked like they couldn't find the angles. And obviously there's credit to V5 in that one as well. But here, this is kind of what we expected for the series. We expected this level of domination. And right now, do you see them starting up the Baron once again? A true shot will connect on all 3 carries, but V5, 10,000 gold down. This is a hard fight to take.
This is a very hard fight to take, as we can see now. The quickness used to try and jump onto this Renekton. He gets kicked back as well. Has the dominance to keep himself up and alive, and the Gore Drinker. So this is still a lot used here onto the very tanky Renekton, and he stays alive in this fight. We are going to see the Fate's Call used as Angel goes golden to stop the knockup, and now V5 are separated. Now they have no real way of fighting this, and 3v5. I feel like the V5 got to back away. Suning took everything, and they'll continue to do so.
Yeah, V5 are going to try and look for that mid lane tower as the Baron gets started up. I think Angel and Bin might actually look to defend this. So it's not even like V5 get to trade in this situation.
They don't even get to trade. You're going to put the Kalista and the Lee Sin on that objective, put everyone else towards mid-side. There is no real hope or way that the side of V5 are going to be stealing that objective today. And with the amount of Ren stacks they're going to have in that Baron right now, we can see Huan Fong is putting himself over. It should be an easy one to pick up. No smite, but no need for it. And that is going to be Suning now. 12,000 gold ahead, 4 dragons, and 5 minutes, I'd say, until they really want to end this game.
Yeah, and a lot of spikes coming in. 3 items for that Calista with a stopwatch as well. Nearly got the Rabadons for Angel on top of that. It's looking rough. It's looking rough for the side of V5. And I feel like, you know, we're talking about the sort of scaling up, playing safe, getting to those later stages. They haven't been able to do so far. It's kind of in desperation mode right now. And we see how this team fight blows out. And essentially, they're not able to find a convincing engage onto Huan Fong. We see PZX jump in, isn't able to really connect on that little knock up at the end. And then it's just, they're getting dismantled. The damage is flying in. They're struggling to deal with these backline threats. And you see they keep looking to re-engage. They look for the angles, but as soon as you miss them, you're just getting shredded by everyone on Suning.
Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. V5 still looking like they will go winless in terms of series and matches in the LPL Summer 2021. Suning a little bit shaky, gotta admit, not looking the best in this particular series. We're gifted a game 1, we're smacked down in game 2, and now they are knocking on the door in game 3, looking, poking, prodding, and this is where something like a Jace Zoe has so much power. You're putting out Paddle Stars, you're putting out Shock Blast. There's just not a lot that V5 can do to defend against it.
Yeah, they have to start a fight at some point. They have to find an angle in, but it's very difficult. There's flashes for Angel, Bin, and Huan Fong. And because of those are up, it just means the Zac engage is so limited. Alias just gets chunked so much by this Calista.
He just cannot do anything. Tried to go in, but the Recon quickness was enough.
Kepler's health.
Oh, Kepler. he has to go straight back to base, and you got Top Wave pushing in as well. This could just be all 3 inhibitors being taken right here, right now, but with the redemption coming down, this could be the game right here, right now. The stolen quickness has been used, and goes golden on absolutely nothing. Uniboy is the first to fall to the skies and back to your base, as everyone from V5 is just coerced back onto their fountain. They have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, no hope in hell, and they will continue to search for their first win in the LPL season. They will lose 2-1 to Suning, and Suning will be wiping a little bit of sweat off their brow.
Yeah, definitely not the cleanest series, but they do manage to take it in the end. It's the, I guess we'll say, expected result. Credit to V5, they take a game which, considering their season so far, any game is seen as quite a bit of a victory for them. But I think we saw in that game 3, when Suning have the early agency, when they have the tools to go aggressive, they can very much run away